So hi, David Schmitz from the Liberal Democrat Party, standing as Tottenham MP, as a candidate for MP. I wonder if you could just outline what's brought you to politics. Why have you actually taken yourself to this commitment that so few people actually do?
Well, it's really a short story or a long story. For the sake of your listeners, I'll give you the short story. A few years ago, I found myself living next to a crack den, and the council did nothing about stopping the antisocial behaviour, other nuisances which were going on there, even though they had certain powers under the planning legislation, and even though I, as a lawyer, wrote rather long letters explaining to them exactly what their powers were and what they could do. I couldn't get a coherent response, so I thought that a different political direction of the council was needed.
Oh, right. So how did it resolve the situation?
Oh, well, the situation resolved with no thanks from the council. What happened was that somebody threw a fag into a pile of rubbish, the house burned down, and I eventually bought it from the owner, spent a year doing it up, and it's now our family home.
Brilliant. Well, that's a success story. What's been a success story from your political involvements? What have you done that's actually impacted the world?
Well, I think that might be putting it a little too high, but we've had some successes because I helped to run the council campaign in Haringey Ward, that's the Haringey Ladder, in 2006, and we got our first two elected Tottenham councillors then. I became the branch secretary of the party, and then now I'm the parliamentary candidate. We are enjoying increased support. We're, of course, benefiting from the surge which Nick Clegg has got from us in recent days, and things are looking good.
Why?
I should mention, by the way, but I'm standing both for Parliament and for the Council because I feel that recent years there's been too much of a disconnection between the representation in Parliament and what goes on in the local authority, and I feel that there needs to be a coming together of these two functions. In particular, and this is my main criticism of David Lammy, it's that he's rather had his eye off the ball as to how what goes on in Westminster impacts locally.
Right, so that's quite unusual to be doing this.
It's not terribly common, but if you've got a London seat and can go easily from your constituency to Westminster, it's by no means unheard of. And I think it's quite a good idea. Remember that a minister in the government spends most of his time doing government business rather than constituency business. Here, my time, full time in politics, will be matters relating to the constituency. I don't have any ambition to be a minister.
How do you envisage this Ward's Corner site developing when the Granger plan falls apart?
Well, it's a bit of a loaded question. I have, of course, been very active in trying to save this site and to oppose the Granger's development. I think I've been involved in it for some 3 years now, giving legal advice from time to time and generally turning up to support the campaigners, in particular when they went to see the Deputy Mayor shortly after the council, the Labour members of the council, voted through the Granger's plan. So as to what is likely to happen, that I have to say that isn't clear. Of course, everything is going to depend upon two factors: the result of a court case, which is due to be heard next month, and which, because it's subject to judicial proceedings, I really oughtn't to comment on. And the other thing is, of course, if the permission given to Granger's is upheld, whether Granger's actually decides it's still in its interest to go through with it. I mean, clearly, I know what I want to see here, which is the plan which was developed by the community implemented. You have absolutely first-class architectural plans for new development, as well as the preserving of a locally listed building, a very fine building in the Ward's Corner itself, and, of course, this marvellous Latin American market. So it's anything that I can do to promote that is I'm up for.
So if you actually are elected, what could you actually do to further that possibility?
Well, I can give moral support for it, speak for it. Of course, a member of parliament as such doesn't have powers. I can't tell the planning authorities what to do.
But as a councillor, you could.
Well, again, I wouldn't be able to because I'm so associated with this campaign. If this matter were to come to a planning committee of the council, I would be immediately disqualified for having nailed my colours very firmly to the mast. But of course, I can attempt to be persuasive, and of course, and I would hope that as an elected official from someone who doesn't have a particular axe to grind, I would hope that people might listen to me.
Right. About national politics, well, international. You're part of the Liberal Democrat Party,
yes.
And you do not support the replacement of the Trident missile system.
That is correct. We regard it as a colossal waste of money, which we cannot afford at this time of economic stringency, at a time when vital public services.
So, if there wasn't a problem with money, you would go ahead with it?
No, because it's a Cold War weapon that has outlived its usefulness. It was meant to flatten Moscow and St. Petersburg, and we don't want to flatten Moscow and St. Petersburg any longer. Actually, we never really did, but if they had flattened us, we had to have a threat that they might end up flattened themselves. But the world's moved on.
So, would you like to replace it with a different kind of weapon system, or divert the money altogether?
Well, what I want to do is, of course, to spend the money on peaceful purposes. But one has to remember that we do face some real threats, and the necessity of meeting those threats dictates that we have to be able to defend ourselves, and that means doing things such as treating the members of our armed forces as decently, and it does mean, of course, making certain that they do have adequate equipment to defend themselves and to protect us from the new threats that we face.
So these threats that we seem to face in the world, the best way to meet threats of violence is with violence. I just wondered, on a personal level, when was the last time you actually dealt with an interaction with someone else and violence actually created a positive outcome?
Well, I mean, you're talking about my personal experience. I'm glad to say that I don't have much personal experience of violence. What I have to say is that I think it's unrealistic to expect that simple passive resistance of the Gandhian mold can be applied to every single threat that we face. It's not everyone can be shamed into behaving decently, as say the British colonialists were shamed into behaving decently by the campaigns of Mahatma Gandhi.
So, do you think that our economic, our GDP, there are some suggestions that the arms trade, our arms manufacture and sales should not be included in our gross domestic product, because it's not something that should, it should be purely a defensive thing and not a matter that develops our economic growth structure?
Well, I think that this trade has to be handled ethically, and that we have to be extremely careful who it is that buys our arms. It's not like selling motor cars, and it has to be recognised that this is a product that kills people.
So what we sell to Israel is that we're happy with Israel, we're happy with Libya.
I'm not going to name names. It depends what are the particular weapons to be used for, who are they to be used against, and in what circumstances.
So should we be proud of our country being such a great manufacturer of weapons?
Well, I don't think it's a matter of pride, but at the same time, if there is a legitimate trade, and it is not something which I would seek to ban or to stop this country from profiting. What I would seek is that it should be done with an eye to the consequences, especially the consequences of any innocent people who might be hurt.
So if guilty people are hurt, even if they haven't been tried, then it's okay?
Well, that's a loaded question. The fact is that the purpose of arms is to keep yourself safe from imminent threats. It's not to. The purpose is not to go after people who are bad and who pose no threat to you. That's one reason why my party and I opposed the Iraq War. Detestable as Saddam Hussein was, it wasn't justifiable to attack him or his regime at that particular time, as of course events have borne out.
Brilliant. Well, David, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.
And all the best in your election.
Thank you very much
All
indeed.
right. Cheers.
Right.